Hey everyone, it's Argonath here from The Right Way. Another very interesting article from a journalist called Dilipa Fonseca, who has actually written a critical piece about the government in New Zealand, which is quite good. So those of you that are interested in what's happening in New Zealand, or you are in New Zealand and might not have come across this article before, let's have a read of this. So the heading is, "In Auckland, the rule of law has given way to the rule of Wellington bureaucrats." So basically, the entire city of Auckland, our biggest city in New Zealand, has over 1 million people, is being run by a bunch of people that are in the capital city, Wellington, which is at the other end of the North Island. Um, and they're making all the decisions while not actually having to live in those conditions in Auckland. It's a really good article. Let's go through this. So the rule of law means that there is one set of rules based on values and principles that everyone understands and they are enforced. Meanwhile, rule by bureaucrat tends to be arbitrary, made by human beings whose moods and decisions sometimes appear to come down to what they had for breakfast that morning. That's not a bad analogy. Auckland has found itself tossed around by bureaucratic decisions that have been poorly explained, with little to no remorse from those tasked with selling and explaining those decisions to the city's residents. Yep, it's just been a disaster in terms of how they've managed Auckland, and people are getting tired of it, right? It has seen a short, sharp lockdown spiral into one where the Director General of Health won't even be drawn on when he expects the city to get its vaccination rates up high enough to escape it. So, when we went into this new lockdown, when the Delta outbreak started in New Zealand and Auckland, because the idiotic decision of putting all of the MIQ, or not all, but a lot of the MIQ managed isolation and quarantine people inside the city of Auckland. Great idea, right? Put them all in our biggest city, and that's where it leaked from. So it was supposed to be just a short, sharp lockdown, they told us, and then it's gone on for about 5, 6 weeks. Maybe not as long as other cities around the world, but it's still plenty long, right? And we have no idea when we're getting out of it because the government just keeps doing a week by week thing. Businesses can't make decisions on how they need to prepare to get ready and set up and so on. As the National Party, the opposition party, said, basically, when you hit 85% vaccination rate across the country, open up to level 2, or set a date, right? Say December the 12th for some reason, whatever it is. By that time, if you haven't got a vaccine, that's on you. If you get sick, that is on you. You've had the chance to get vaccinated, and if you aren't vaccinated, I'll highly encourage you to do so because it's going to save your life. So that we just need a date, right? But the government is too useless to actually come up with a plan of what we want to do. Apparently, they're supposed to be coming up with a plan this Friday, so we're currently on Wednesday, but we'll have to wait and see if they actually have a plan or whether it's just another announcement of an announcement, which they're actually really good at doing. Everywhere you look, there's been a marked inability across multiple ministries to come to terms with the super diversity of the super city, where the government can send out a command and not everyone in the city will interpret it in the same way or even understand what you are saying. Auckland's one of our most diverse cities in New Zealand. Lots of cultures. A lot of people don't actually speak English as well. So whether they're actually getting the messages that the government are providing, who actually knows? Most of the stuff I've seen has been in English. So if you're not an English speaker, then maybe you don't really understand what's going on, what the rules are and so on. Meanwhile, Auckland's well-provisioned and usually powerful local government apparatus has been left on the sidelines, barely able to enforce its own parking rules because they're just as bad as well. So here's a picture of people in Auckland that are supposed to be in level 3 lockdown, having a good time on the beach. They're not taking too much notice of what's happening, and not many people of those are actually wearing masks. Now, it's okay if you're socially distanced from everyone. That's not a problem. New Zealand, being a unitary state where power is centralised in a single authority, has an advantage at the beginning of the pandemic because it made it easier for us to shut our borders quickly and organise everybody into lockdowns. And I think, yep, we did do a really good job the very first time in 2020 when the first outbreak of COVID began, but it's been an absolute mess from then on. This time around, as Auckland has remained locked down and others have moved down the alert levels, having such a centralised system has proven to be a hindrance. Think about all those things that hampered Auckland's response. The unimaginably long queues for testing, barely expanded ICU or medical capacity, the poorly prioritised vaccine rollout, along with the meagre financial support which has seen some people survive on just the wage subsidy this entire time. And that doesn't include business owners who get a pitiful amount of money to try and keep their business afloat, and the wage subsidy only pays out a certain amount. If someone earns more than what the wage subsidy pays, then the employer has to make the difference even though they can't open their business. It's just ridiculous. Why the government just didn't pay everyone 100% of their wage doesn't make any sense to me, considering they're borrowing almost $1 billion a week, if you can imagine that. All these can be traced back to a decision made at ministry level, whether it be saliva testing. We still don't have any public-backed saliva testing. It's all done for a private company for other private companies. Immigration, rules around who could pass through boundaries, delays with wage subsidy payouts, all the decision not to share information. Again, it's just been an absolute disaster. This has worsened as the Wellington-based bureaucrats making these decisions have found themselves in places where life continues much as normal, while the people affected by their decisions are hundreds of kilometres away, engulfed in a COVID-19 outbreak. And this is what it comes down to, right? All these friggin' politicians, especially in the Labour Party, who don't have any business acumen among them, except for the Prime Minister, who actually worked in a fish and chip shop. That's her claim to fame. They're all academics, come out of academia, probably have never had to work hard in their life in a business or working for someone. They went straight into the academic area, went into public servant jobs. They still get that because they're still working from home. They still get their amazing salaries and so on. They have no idea what life is like for other people in New Zealand, right? So they can go on saying, oh, it's just another week, it's just another week, but they don't know what it's like for other people. Right at the start of the lockdown, you would occasionally hear one or two voices yelling down by the train tracks, but as the days wore on, it grew into a small crowd leaning on their cars and sharing cigarettes. Later it was the balconies with roast chicken outlets and fast food joints where more and more people started to gather in the questioning proportion bubbles. This is the thing, right? You just can't keep people locked down for a long period of time because they get sick of it. We don't want to be treated like we're in prison. We need to be free. The government needs to come out and give us a freedom day. This is what we need. Goes down a bit more, so it ends up, it's not such a big deal over a week or so, but it can be demoralizing experience over 2 months or more. People begin to think everyone is breaking the rules, even as only a small visible minority at one time. So these are the people that get special dispensation. I did a video just before how the government hired some people to do some TV stuff for our Vaxathon that we had, and they sent the team from Auckland down to Wellington to film, even though Wellington is the film capital of New Zealand. So if you haven't seen that video, it's in one of my previous videos. If you want to have a watch of that, you might find it interesting. Last time things were a lot simpler. Police Commissioner Mike Bush came out and put the friendly face of the police. We'll be ensuring people will comply because if they don't, people will die, he reported to RNZ at the time. You can say what you like about the eerie quasi-fascist nature of the threat, but people had little doubt a breach of the rules would be treated like a breach of the rules no matter who you were, but that has not been occurring. A really good balanced article. Dilipa Fonseca, thank you very much for your balanced article here. A lot better than a lot of the rhetoric that's come out of the media, which are biased towards the left-wing government and so on, and very biased to segregating our population between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. If you don't know, I highly support vaccination. I've had my 2 jabs. I really encourage you to get it because it's going to save your life, because COVID is coming, because it will mean that you don't have to go into hospital. But it's up to you, right? If you don't want to get the vaccine, that's your choice. I don't have anything against you for doing that. I would not hesitate to talk to you right next to you or something if you weren't vaccinated, because as we know, vaccinated people can also catch the virus and transmit the virus as well. Anyway, let me know what you think about this article. Do you agree with a lot of what Dilipa Fonseca has said? If you disagree about anything, then let me know as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, you're welcome to give it a thumbs down, and hopefully I will catch you in the next video.